You ask us why we sing. We sing for those who died in the silence, for those who died weeping, for those who died screaming, for those who died quietly from hunger and lack of clean water. We sing for those who dream stubbornly for justice, for those who laugh in the darkness, for those who die singing, for those who work, endlessly labor, for life, for love, for freedom. For we know that greed and despair, impoverishment and torture and war are not our true selves, that love and gentle resolve, our song and our silence are stronger than death, and that at the end they will not falter. That wonderful poem is from the dreadful times in Chile, the military coup of 1973, when so many Chileans were murdered, tortured, disappeared, sent into exile. An anonymous song. And it's actually, I have it as the foreword of this book, Song in High Summer. Song in High Summer was supposed to be an autobiography written quite a while ago now, in the late, just before 1990. And you may wonder, I mean, why would one be writing an autobiography anyway? Well, you know. But the wonderful thing about it was that it got overtaken by the events of the moment, and indeed became a paean to the courage of, and vision and beauty and this determination to prove in life that the great dream will not falter. And so it became a paean to many people, in particular the Salvadoran exiles who were living in Los Angeles in those days, attacked by death squads. So it's a diary of courage, yeah. Anyway, the reason I wanted to start what is to become a series, supposedly, with a reading of this particular book, Song in High Summer, is precisely that it leads on, really, between, I suppose, the posters behind me, Victor Jara of Chile, whose songs and story and wonderful courage and indeed martyrdom brought so many of us into the movement for peace, justice, and indeed beauty in the course of that terrible coup and afterwards, 1973 and up until the present time, really. His music remains and grows in importance and strength. Songs like Te Recuerdo Amanda, Ni Chicha Ni Limonada, all these great songs. And then leading to Make Earth Green Again, because this is the great struggle, the underlying struggle that exacerbates and is the hope of all the other smaller struggles. It's hard to say that. It's not fair in the sense more, how would we say, more closely focused struggles. The children in Gaza at the moment. I'm recording this in June 2025, yeah? And maybe when there will be, the US is debating whether to get into a war with Iran, and so on and so on. And indeed, I live in Nicaragua. It's early in the morning here. That's why I'm kind of a bit sort of need some coffee. And every day I walk among little guys who, but for the exploitation of their country, would, who knows, be another Victor Jara, another Beethoven, another Madame Curie, another Martin Luther King, another Rosa Parks. Yeah? And this great struggle, the great dream that will not falter is justice, peace, and beauty. So the best bit of the book really is Joan Jara's Foreword. She writes, Joan, who just died actually in November of 2023, a great lady in her own right, age of 96. She was not only Victor's companion and indeed worked tirelessly to spread his music and most importantly the message behind the music or the message of the music, but also was herself a dancer and a human rights activist. Or she always said, yeah, obviously we want justice for Victor, but it will not be justice unless there's justice for all those whose names are only known to their loved ones. So many people actually in Chile still looking for those who were disappeared, their families, family members who were disappeared. Over 1,000 people still in 2025, imagine. So she writes from Chile, Dear Paul, I was very moved by your book. I found many parallels between you and Victor. I can really imagine you two passing the guitar from one to the other, discussing, telling anecdotes, and even drinking endless cups of tea. Also, Victor's favorite beverage, while of course living here in climate catastrophe Nicaragua, where temperatures, we could already boil eggs on top of my head. Now they're going even hotter. Beer is our chosen drink, but I would take a cup of tea with Victor Jara any day. And so she says, perhaps one day we shall meet, I hope so. Meanwhile, the best wishes for your book. Un abrazo, Joan. A big hug, Joan. And we did in fact meet, and in fact stayed with Joan in their house in Santiago in Chile. She even let me play Victor's guitar. And indeed, that has become, how would you say, a seminal moment in all that's followed, really. And particularly in the whole Make Earth Green Again. I get that, by the way. Make Earth, E-G, green. Again, and so you have mega, and then if you can just see at the bottom, mega trumps, MAGA, how about that, eh? Anyway, we'll get to that in a minute. Here's the foreword. Here are my glasses. Paul Baker has written a moving and dramatic testimony of love and solidarity confronting persecution, terror, and torture. As a living witness, he has managed, for an instant, to draw the curtain which conceals so much unwritten human history, showing the day-by-day courage of those who struggle against enormous odds for social justice and the basic necessities of life, whether in El Salvador, Chile, South Africa, or the slums of Glasgow. His book is also a testimony to the role that music and song can play in that struggle as a means of solace, of integration, and communication across language and cultural barriers. Victor Jara was killed in Chile in 1973 because of his songs. Now, many years later, Paul Baker, a man from a very different country, keeps those songs alive by singing them in a context which is the continuation of that same struggle for social justice, peace, and freedom from exploitation, for which Victor gave his life. And this is the bit I love. I wish that history could have allowed them to meet. They would have been friends. And of course, I have to disagree with Joan, despite the beauty of that foreword. It's not that we keep the songs alive, it's the songs themselves keep us alive and have kept people alive throughout so many decades, 50 years since the coup. So that's the introduction and the foreword to Song in High Summer, and I'll just leave it there for the moment, and then we can actually get onto the book itself next recording. It's just such a privilege to have known and to have worked beside so many people. People say, well, your life was so weird, extraordinary, peculiar, depending on where you want to start, from a hermit to a revolutionary singer, in a hermit in woolly liberal England, to a pseudo-revolutionary singer in revolutionary Nicaragua, and having along the way sung for 300,000 people, the largest gathering ever in Britain. But that was only because the Pope was our warm-up act in Bellahouston and Glasgow in 1982 or 3, I think it was. And then, we all went, a whole bunch of us organized, went to invade Balmoral Castle, to protest Margaret Thatcher's nuclear weapons, cruise missiles, and so on and so on. So there have been lots of amazing things, but it's been serendipitous. Just sort of, that looks interesting, let's have a go at that sort of thing, rather than, anything to do with the singer. And I like old Giza Banging On has got a subtitle, which is the song, not the singer. So until next time, when we'll actually get to the book, hasta pronto.